Okay, so I'm vectorized. In my free time, I maintain this library called Solady, which is a Solidity library of various features written mostly in inline-assembly. So today I'm going to talk about how we use inline-assembly to make things simpler for users of the library. Okay, so to start off, some time ago I posted this tweet saying the beginner use assembly to save gas because that's the most obvious thing. The intermediate use assembly to avoid the spurious dragon limit because assembly makes your bytecode much smaller. Like even without EOF, if you use Solady, you probably can see like 20 to 30% bytecode reduction. Then the advanced use assembly to save time. Once you are so used to writing in inline assembly, you just straight away write the optimal U code. So inline assembly and U, we can use it interchangeably in this context. Okay, so today I'm going to describe a bit of 2 and 3, the second and third point. Wait. Okay, so some examples to start with. The first one is safe transfer leap. I'm also going to talk about the leap clone in Solady. So in Solady, we have this library for proxies, and our proxies are mostly, I would say most, if not all, our proxies are like directly written in bytecode. Then we also describe like some higher level features, for example, leap sort, and how having inline assembly can help in testing. Okay, so for example, safe transfer leap, we use this, let's say if you want to send Ether to someone in the auction contract, but what if the sender is some smart contract that gets grief or does not implement the receive function? So in Solady, we have this function called force safe transfer if, which uses self-destruct to force send the Ether to the person. So as a user, you don't need to care about all this nitty-gritty. You just use the function and you can be very safe that the Ether will be actually force sent to the person. And why is this useful? We know that wrap if is like not on the same address on every L2. So if you want to deploy your contract to the same create2 address and you use wrap if, it's a bit troublesome. So instead, you can just use this function and you can save your brain space and time. Okay, in leap clone, we have this function called deploy ERC1967, which deploys a minimal bytecode proxy that is upgradable. So it's based on this ERC called 7760. So this proxy has been written for more than a year, but recently we want to consolidate all this into a ERC so that block explorers can implement auto-verification easily. So because this ERC has been around, like the proxies has been around for some time, it has also gained a bit of adoption. So on base chain, it is the proxy of choice used for the Coinbase smart wallet. And for Polygon, I think they are using it for something else also. So there are like over 100,000 examples of these proxies being used around. And the advantage is that it's fast, it's small, and on some cases, it auto-verifies. So it saves your time. You don't need to do some Etherscan API key. It just verifies it by itself. So leap sort also have some high-level functions can be useful for your testing purpose. Like we have set operations on sorted arrays. You can use it for your invariant tests. And then for test class, we know that if you write your test in Foundry, you have to define the random variables in the function arguments, and there's limited amount of space you can do that. And you have to think of like nice names for the variables, which I find is very time-consuming. So instead, I use like a lot of black magic to write this underscore random method, which allows you to use to generate random stream of numbers anywhere in your code. So you can do something like guided fast testing. And if you want to know how to integrate into your project, you can follow the link below. Okay, so here are some other example libraries you might want to check out. One thing I find a bit interesting is dynamic array leap. For example, in Solidity, if you define an array, you know you can't do like append or pushback. But whereas this dynamic array leap has that function. Okay, so why Inline-Assembly is good for a library writer like me? First, it provides some techniques, like it helps me do some fine-tuning of the code so that users of the library don't have to worry that my library caused them to have a stack too deep. It also can enable some cool math that is not accessible in normal Solidity. And then if you know how to push the compiler in the right direction, you can achieve some zero-cost compile time abstractions. So, for example, avoiding stack too deep. We have this function called lonewhat in fixed point math leap. If you use it on its own, sometimes the compiler tries to inline it and it causes a stack too deep. But if we rewrite the function in Inline-Assembly, you can somehow rearrange how the variables are allocated on the stack. And by rearranging the variables, you help the compiler compile in a way that avoids stack too deep with or without IR. So in Solady, we are very particular that it must work in as many situations as possible. So whether you use VIR or whether you choose not to use VIR, we want to make sure that it just works. You don't need to worry that our library is the culprit of a stack too deep. That's why we are very particular with all these tiny details. Okay, then Inline-Assembly also allows us to make some cool math. You don't need to understand what the math is about, but there are some opcodes like the byte opcode and the branchless opcodes that allows us to make math faster. For example, in this log2 method. And the advantage of having a fully branchless function that is inline, that is possible with Inline-Assembly is that when the Solidity compiler try to optimize, it will first check whether a function has any branches. If it has branches, then the function is likely not to be inline with the VIR pipeline. And if you use the legacy pipeline, it will definitely not be inline. So by writing stuff in Inline-Assembly, we help the compiler produce more efficient bytecode by telling the compiler that this function is inlineable. So using this trick, we can also achieve some other techniques, like if you want to compare a short string with another short string, traditionally you will use some kind of keycap 256. But if you know Inline-Assembly, you can do some kind of black magic that will tell the compiler that instead of doing useless memory allocations, just emit the optimal opcode. So all this, although it looks like a lot of opcodes, but in the end, after you press compile, it somehow simplifies into just a few opcodes. And this is only possible if the entire chunk of code is branchless. Okay, so the thing about Solidity is that it's a very beautiful language. You can write all the low-level things, and users don't have to be concerned about the details. So all the nitty-gritty black magic has been abstracted away from the users. The users need to just care about what are the high-level APIs and what are the trade-off of all the different functions. So you can write clean and performant, readable, high-level Solidity without actually going deep into the Inline-Assembly rabbit hole. Okay, so some core goals, like North Star of Solady. We want to make sure that Solidity is the best smart contract language by providing a rich set of highly optimized utilities that fits the Solidity compiler now and into the future. Then, okay, so the idea is that people say we want to write our language in Rust because it has a wider library. We want to write in C++ because there's a wider library. But in Solidity, we have this exotic math function called Lambert W01, which is only available in Python, maybe some math language, and Solidity. You can't find it in any other major languages. So that is Solidity's goal. If it's Turing complete, if it's possible within the Turing completeness of EVM, we will implement it. We also want to scale Ethereum through sure app layer optimizations and also make the code beautiful. So we also have plans for EOF. Although I am it's quite a chore, but I see the importance of it because EOF code is actually more optimal for stuff like SP1 proving. So eventually, I think quite soon, Solady will have a EOF. It won't be a breaking change. So we have a source directory, and then we have an EOF directory. So you can use either one. We won't force you to use either EOF or the legacy. We'll give you an option. Okay, so here are some links. You can visit solidity.org, which is a shortcut to Solady. Or you can visit my GitHub or my X. Sometimes I post small Solidity lessons on my X. Okay, I think that's all for my talk.
Thank you, Vectorize, for this talk. I guess we have all now a better idea of how to leverage assembly, inline assembly in our code. In the meantime, we have plenty of time for questions, so if you have any, make sure to please send them through this QR code. I'll be starting with the first one on the leaderboard. Did assembly ever bite you in the butt where vanilla Solidity would have been more safe?
Okay, when I was starting out maybe 2 years ago, I think the safe transfer lib forgot to clean some upper bits because it was, I directly ported it from Soulmate. But then someone spotted that bug. So these days, I am super paranoid about unclean, dirty upper bits. So it becomes like a second nature. So I think recently it should be quite safe.
All right, next one. When to use let and when to use mstore?
Okay, let is a way of defining variables in inline assembly. If, let's say, somehow you can't force the compiler to reorganize a stack to avoid stack too deep, then you might have to use mstore to use the scratch space for temporary variables. But you, at most, can only use 2 parts of the scratch space, 2 slots, because the other slots are for other purpose, for important stuff.
Next one, why do you prefer Solidity inline assembly over other low-level languages like Huff?
Okay, so the thing about, I like Huff, but the benefit of Solidity is that it allows you to recycle your efforts. And also it allows you to generate more compact bytecode. For example, in Huff, the inline is really inline. But whereas in Solidity, if you have 10 use, if your function is a giant chunk of bytecode and it's used in 30 different places, you might not actually want to inline it every single time.
Next one, at L2's call data with call data feedback function, I guess from libzip, has greater gas versus non-compressed call data, but has slightly cheaper gas at L1. Is that correct? What happens under the hood?
Okay, this depends on your L2. Some L2s already forward the gas savings of compressed call data to the users. So if you use CD fallback on Optimism, you will most probably not be able to save any call data money. So if you deploy on OPStack, just don't use that.
When using assembly-based libraries, is there a higher likelihood that it is less compatible with future Solidity versions?
I would say there is actually less likelihood because, for example, if you look at transient storage, Solidity implement it on the assembly level first, then later it becomes a higher level thing. So one thing you have to worry about is that Solidity might change in ways that the high level parts interpret the memory slightly differently. So that you have to keep up with the changelog.
Vectorize also has a nice friend, a nice hat, and a panda on his hat. Do you want to show everyone? Yeah, I guess that helps you as well when coding. Next one, I guess, how Solidy's future saturated? How many more libraries and functions do you plan to add?
Okay, I think right now we have mostly saturated. We have a lot of work to do to port to EOF. Like, especially the lib clone is going to be, but the Solidity team has actually much more stuff to do compared to me.
Another one about Solady. Will the new Solidity compiler in Rust impact Solady?
I think this new Solidity compiler called Solar, they try to become like feature parity with the official Solidity compiler. Like for example, in C++, you have Clang, you have GCC. I think we might go that route down the road. And if you are just writing in a high-level language, you don't need to care whether you use Clang or GCC.
All right, that wraps up for our Q&A session. Thank you very much for the questions, and give a big round of applause for Vectorize.